I brought her favorite apple crumble to dinner. She shut the door in my face while laughing with two of her exes. So I served her something colder. Court summons. Before we begin, please subscribe. And I'd love to know, where in the world are you listening from? A man can prepare for war, but not for betrayal served with laughter and apple crumble. The mirror doesn't lie, even when you want it to. 9:30 a.m. on Thanksgiving morning in Cranston, Rhode Island. And I'm standing here in my navy button-down. The one Diane once said makes my eyes look electric. That was 3 years ago, back when she still noticed my eyes at all. I take extra time fixing my hair, running my fingers through it with precision I haven't bothered with in months. Why the hell do I still care what she thinks? The question hangs in the bathroom air, mixing with the scent of my aftershave. The same cologne I've worn since our second date. The cold November morning seeps through our bedroom window, but there's something hopeful about the sunshine cutting across the hardwood floors. Maybe today will be different. Maybe the old traditions can patch whatever's been rotting between us. I'm clinging to that. Maybe like a lifeline. 6 years ago, our first Thanksgiving together was chaos wrapped in joy. A tiny apartment in Federal Hill. Turkey so overcooked it could have been construction material, and Diane laughing so hard at my gravy attempts that she snorted wine through her nose. We didn't have matching plates or Pinterest-perfect staging. We had each other, and that felt like enough. I still keep the wooden rolling pin her grandmother gave us as a wedding gift. It sits in the kitchen drawer, beneath the newer tools Diane picked up from Williams-Sonoma. I've caught myself holding it sometimes, remembering when Diane's eyes would light up watching me make her mom's apple crumble recipe. That was the first time I felt truly accepted by her family. I've been awake since 6 a.m. working on that crumble, peeling Honeycrisp apples by hand because that's how Diane prefers them. Not Granny Smith's, not Galas, Honeycrisps, even though they're twice the price. The recipe is written on a faded note card my mom gave me when I was 12. Brown sugar, nutmeg, cinnamon, all mixed by hand until it forms that perfect crumbly texture. I use Janice's fancy foil with crimped edges. Bought it special just for this because showing up with regular aluminum foil earns you passive-aggressive comments that poison an entire evening. The wine took 3 trips to different liquor stores. A 2017 Cabernet from California. Not too cheap, not flashy. The middle lane that Diane's family expects from me. Our marriage has become a careful dance around landmines. No physical intimacy in over a year. We sleep on opposite sides of our king-size bed like strangers sharing a hotel room. Our conversations have shrunk to bills, groceries, and yard work. At family gatherings, I walk on eggshells. Last Easter, Diane rolled her eyes at me in front of Janice when I brought Corona instead of that craft IPA her brother likes. But I keep showing up. Keep hoping that sincerity might rekindle something, or at least maintain the peace we've built our life around. The drive to Janice's house takes exactly 24 minutes. I use the time to practice lines in my head, light jokes about the Lions game, asking Janice about her new job, complimenting Diane's dress before I even see what she's wearing. The rehearsal feels pathetic, but it's better than showing up empty-handed conversationally. I notice new cracks spreading across my windshield. Never got them fixed after last month's hailstorm. I've been putting patches on everything lately, I mutter. The house, the business, this marriage. Everything feels held together with duct tape and good intentions. Janice's house sits in one of those picture-perfect suburban neighborhoods where every lawn looks trimmed with scissors. Fall wreath on the front door, fresh mulch, and one of those carefully curated welcome mats that probably cost more than my work boots. I pull into the driveway behind cars I don't recognize, more guests than usual. Through the living room window, I can see motion inside. People laughing, someone raising a glass, champagne being opened. The warm glow looks inviting, like a Norman Rockwell painting. For a moment, I let myself imagine walking in there and belonging. Really belonging, instead of just being tolerated. I grab the crumble from the passenger seat, still warm, foil edges perfectly crimped, and the bottle of Cabernet. I check my reflection in the car window one more time, smooth down my hair, and walk toward the front door with something that feels almost like optimism. Janice opens the door in a sleek dark green sweater dress. Her expression hits me before her words do. Smug, practiced, like she's been rehearsing this moment. I offer what I hope is a warm smile and lean forward for the half hug we've exchanged at every family gathering for 6 years. She steps back, arms crossed, and her voice cuts through the November air like broken glass. "You're not invited. Go home." The words don't compute at first. I stand there, Crumble growing heavy in my hands. Her tone is cold, final, with no room for negotiation. Just dismissal, served with casual cruelty that only family can deliver. I freeze, confused, but instinctively look past her into the house. And that's when I see it. Diane, sitting at the head of Janice's dining table. On her left, Preston Wells, her ex-husband, his arm draped casually over her chair. He's whispering something in her ear, and she's smiling in a way I haven't seen in 2 years. On her right sits Reed Callahan, her college boyfriend, topping off her wine glass and laughing like he belongs there. The burgundy dress she's wearing? I gave it to her for our 5th anniversary. My heart doesn't just break. It contracts, like someone squeezing it in their fist. The room is warm, golden, alive with candles flickering on seasonal plates and linen napkins folded into perfect triangles. Everyone looks engaged, animated, happy. They're having the kind of Thanksgiving I've been trying to create for years, and I'm not in it. I'm nothing. Erased. Not one person looks toward the front door. No one sees me standing there, holding my homemade offering like some pathetic door-to-door salesman. I don't speak, can't speak. I just nod slowly, like someone accepting a verdict. My feet feel heavy as I turn around. The crumble is still warm in my hands, the foil crinkling softly with each step. That sound almost breaks me. I get into my silver Acura TLX. The car Diane always said was nice enough, but never quite good enough. I place the crumble carefully on the passenger seat, treating it with more tenderness than anyone showed me in the last 10 minutes. My phone is already in my hand, contacts list glowing. One name stands out, Zane Caro. My lawyer, my friend, the only person who warned me this day might come. "One call," I say aloud to the empty car. That's all it takes. And if they thought they'd seen the last of me, they were about to find out how wrong betrayal feels when it's met with precision. Before a marriage falls apart, the walls whisper, and I'd stopped listening. Driving home from Janice's house. My hands grip the steering wheel like it's the only thing keeping me anchored to reality. The apple crumble sits beside me, still radiating warmth that feels almost mocking now. I keep replaying that scene. Diane laughing with Preston and Reed like I never existed, wearing the dress I bought her, glowing in a way that's been absent from our home for months. How did I miss it? How did I become so blind to what was happening right under my nose? The signs were there. God, they were everywhere. I just chose to ignore them, to explain them away with the kind of willful ignorance that keeps marriages limping along when they should be put out of their misery. It started with small things. The new perfume Diane claimed was a gift from a client, some expensive French brand I'd never heard of. When I complimented it, she got defensive, saying I wouldn't understand because it wasn't from Target. That stung, but I let it slide. Then came the business retreats that never appeared on our shared calendar, weekend trips she said were for networking with vendors in Vermont or New Hampshire. I offered to drive her a few times, but she always had excuses. Too boring, too much girl talk, you'd hate it. I believed her because I wanted to, because the alternative was too terrifying to consider. The iPad incident should have been my wake-up call. 3 months ago, I was helping her organize client files when Reed Callahan's name popped up in a message notification. Just his name, nothing more, but something about it made my stomach twist. When I asked about it, Diane barely looked up from her laptop. "Just some LinkedIn thing," she said, dismissing it with a wave. "Don't worry about it." I didn't push. I never pushed. That was always my problem. Too afraid of conflict, too willing to accept whatever explanation kept the peace. I told myself it was maturity, but really it was cowardice. The emotional disconnect had been growing for months, So gradual I barely noticed until it became a chasm. We'd sit in the same room for hours, both scrolling through our phones, existing in the same space, but living completely separate lives. The silence wasn't comfortable anymore. It was suffocating. Diane stopped saying goodnight months ago. She'd just turn off her lamp and roll away from me, building a wall of blankets between us like a fortress. I realized she only touched me when other people were watching. Performance affection, calculated and brief. A hand on my shoulder during dinner parties, a quick kiss on the cheek when her friends came over. But the moment we were alone, I became invisible again. Her phone habits changed too. Suddenly she was taking it everywhere. To the shower, to bed, even to grab coffee from the kitchen. The device that used to live carelessly on counters and tables became an extension of her body, always face down when I walked by. When I'd ask about her day, she'd give vague answers. Just vendor drama, client panic. You wouldn't understand the details. I was being systematically shut out of her life, and I was too scared to acknowledge it. The breaking point came 2 weeks ago. I couldn't sleep, mind racing with all the little inconsistencies that had been piling up. I found myself in my home office at 2 a.m., staring at my old laptop, the one we used to share before she got her own MacBook. Something drove me to try her old iCloud login. The password from our dating days, Juniper 2018, named after our favorite restaurant where we had our first real date. It worked. She never changed it. What I found in those message threads destroyed whatever was left of my ability to pretend everything was fine. Dozens of texts between Diane and Preston, some so intimate they made my skin crawl. Inside jokes about my small-town values and emotional neediness. Screenshots of arguments we'd had, shared with him for analysis and mockery. One message thread was particularly brutal. Diane complaining about how I cling to traditions like a security blanket, and Preston responding with laughing emojis and suggestions for managing me. But Preston wasn't the only one. Reed was there too, flirting with her through text like they were still in college. Pet names, memories of their relationship, plans to catch up properly when he visited Boston. The casual intimacy of their conversations felt like a knife twisting in my chest. The worst discovery was a group chat called The Real Table, just 3 members, Diane, Reed, and Janice. They'd been planning today for weeks, discussing how to exclude me, joking about my desperate attempts to fit in with their family. Janice had actually typed the words, "Someone needs to tell him he's not welcome anymore. I volunteer." They'd turned my exclusion into entertainment. But the cruelest blow came buried in a file labeled Legal, Personal, a scanned document titled Prenuptial Agreement Amendment, Final Signed Version. My hands shook as I opened it, recognizing the legal letterhead from our original prenup. But this version was different. Drastically different. According to this document, Diane would receive 70% of all marital assets in case of divorce, full operational control of our event planning companies, and sole ownership of our vacation home in Camden, Maine. At the bottom of the page was my signature, or something that looked like my signature. The problem? I never signed this document. I'd never even seen it before. I stared at that forged signature for 20 minutes, my coffee growing cold beside me. This wasn't just emotional betrayal anymore. This was fraud. Systematic, calculated fraud, designed to strip me of everything I'd built while she played house with her ex-boyfriends. She'd been planning this escape for months, maybe longer. The charm offensive with vendors, the solo interviews with bridal magazines, the financial moves to redirect clients to accounts I couldn't access. It was never about saving our marriage. It was about positioning herself to walk away with everything while leaving me with nothing. I screenshot everything. Every text, every email, every document. Then I created an encrypted backup and stored it in 3 different locations. If she wanted to play games with forged documents and secret planning, she'd picked the wrong opponent. At 6 a.m., I called Zane Caro. He answered on the second ring, voice groggy but alert, the kind of lawyer who's always ready for crisis calls. "Happy Thanksgiving, man," he said, probably expecting some casual holiday greeting. "Forget the pleasantries," I cut him off. "Start everything. Now." A pause. Then his tone shifted, becoming sharp and focused. "This the call I think it is? It's war, Zane. Bring everything. I'll need to see what you've got," he said, already shifting into legal mode. "Can you be in my office tomorrow?" "I'll be there at 8 a.m. with enough evidence to bury her." After hanging up, I sat in my home office for a long time, watching the sunrise paint our backyard in shades of gold and amber. Everything looked the same, but nothing would ever be the same again. This house, this life, this marriage, all of it had been built on lies I was too trusting to see. I walked over to my desk and pulled out a locked drawer I hadn't opened in months. Inside was a manila folder labeled Heg Holdings Master Docs, Hayes Event Group Holdings, the umbrella company that owned our 3 brands, Juniper and Slate Events for corporate work, Maple Fern Weddings for the bridal market, and Even Light Concepts for event design and rentals, all registered under my name, all trademarked and copyrighted to my specifications. Diane might have forged a prenup, but she couldn't forge business ownership records filed with the state of Rhode Island. I placed the folder on my desk beside the still warm apple crumble, a perfect metaphor for the contrast between what I'd offered and what I'd received. Warmth met with coldness. Care met with calculation. Love met with lies. This wasn't about heartbreak anymore. This was about erasure. And I don't go quietly. You can light a match with anger, but you burn kingdoms with clarity. The morning after Thanksgiving, I sit across from Zane Caro in his Providence office, watching him flip through printed screenshots of Diane's betrayal. His expression grows darker with each page. Outside his window, Black Friday shoppers hurry past with their coffee cups and shopping bags, oblivious to the war being planned 20 floors above them. "Jesus, Colby," Zane mutters, examining the forged prenup. "This isn't just divorce territory anymore. This is criminal fraud." He's right. Somewhere between discovering those text messages and sitting in this leather chair, my heartbreak crystallized into something harder, more focused. This isn't about salvaging a marriage or even getting revenge. This is about survival. Diane didn't just cheat. She tried to erase me from my own life, and she did it with surgical precision. "I played husband while she played chess," I tell him, sliding the manila folder across his desk. "Here's everything she doesn't know I have." Zane opens the Hayes Holdings file, his eyebrows rising as he reviews the business registration documents. "She really thought she could steal your companies? Look at the dates," I point to the bottom of each form. "Every business registration, every trademark, every licensing agreement, all filed under my name between 2016 and 2018, before we even got married." Zane whistles low. "So legally, she has zero claim to operational control." "None. Juniper and Slate Events, Maple Fern Weddings, Even Light Concepts. They're all subsidiaries of HEG Holdings, which I own 100%. She might have been running day-to-day operations, but she never had legal authority to sign contracts or make financial decisions." The realization hits us both at the same time. If Diane's been signing contracts using my digital signature, if she's been making business decisions without legal authority, then every deal she's made in the past year could be challenged. Every vendor agreement, every client contract, every financial commitment. "We need to move fast," Zane says, already reaching for his legal pad, before she realizes what's coming. Within 2 hours, we've drafted an emergency asset protection motion that would make a Navy SEAL proud. The legal orders include freezing all joint financial accounts, locking Diane's access to shared business tools, securing exclusive access to our office premises, and initiating an injunction against any further use of my intellectual property. But Zane saves the best for last. We're also filing criminal complaints for forgery, identity theft, and fraudulent business representation. "How long before this hits?" I ask. "The emergency motion gets filed today. She'll be served by Monday morning." His smile is sharp as a blade. "But the real fun starts when the automated notifications go out to your vendor network." At exactly 3 p.m. that Friday, every vendor, client, and business partner in our network receives an identical email. Effective immediately, Diane Hayes is no longer an authorized representative of HEG Holdings or any of its subsidiary brands. Legal action is in progress regarding misappropriation of proprietary systems and fraudulent contract signing. All future communication should be directed to Colby Hayes, sole owner and authorized representative. The response is immediate and brutal. By 6 p.m., my phone is buzzing with notifications every few minutes. 30-plus vendors respond in panic, asking for clarification. 15 clients suspend their contracts pending legal resolution. 3 major venues, including the Glass House and Birchwood Manor, send formal letters requesting verification of authorized representatives for all future events. But the crown jewel is my call to the Copley Plaza. 2 years ago, I purchased a minority stake in their ballroom division through HEG Holdings, a smart investment that Diane never fully understood. Now it gives me leverage over the Winter Charity Gala, Boston's biggest socialite event of the season and Diane's most prestigious booking. Cancel it, I tell the venue manager. Any events signed by Diane Hayes are unauthorized and potentially fraudulent. We'll reassign the booking to authorized personnel or release the date entirely. The manager sounds nervous but compliant. We'll send cancellation notices to all vendors immediately, Mr. Hayes. Diane calls me 4 times that evening. I let each call go to voicemail, then listen to her progression from confusion to fury. The first message is almost reasonable. Colby, what the hell is going on? Vendors are calling me freaking out. By the 4th message, she's screaming, "You're blowing up everything just because you couldn't take one joke at dinner? You're pathetic. You're destroying years of work over your hurt feelings." One joke. She thinks ruining my life with 2 ex-boyfriends while forging legal documents was one joke. The fallout spreads faster than I anticipated. Diane's personal catering company, Tallow and Time, gets hit next. 3 upcoming collaborations are canceled within hours. 2 major venues withdraw their vendor agreements, citing concerns about legal entanglements. Her business Instagram, which usually gets dozens of likes per post, suddenly fills with comments questioning her legitimacy. "Are you okay?" writes one follower. "Did you really forge a prenup?" asks another. "Why is your husband saying you stole his systems?" The questions pile up faster than she can delete them. Saturday morning, I get an unexpected call from Mrs. Patterson, Diane's mother. She's crying, completely blindsided by the legal filings that arrived at Diane's apartment. "Colby, honey, I don't understand what's happening," she sobs. "Diane says you're trying to ruin her, but the papers say she forged documents." That doesn't sound like my daughter. I feel genuinely sorry for her. Mrs. Patterson is a sweet woman who raised Diane to be better than this. "I'm sorry you're caught in the middle of this, Mrs. P. But your daughter made some very serious legal mistakes, and I have to protect myself. She's been staying at Janice's since yesterday," she continues. "Won't answer my calls. What happened at Thanksgiving? She won't tell me." I don't have the heart to explain how her daughter humiliated me with her ex-boyfriends, so I keep it simple. Ask her about the prenup she forged. Ask her about the contracts she signed without authorization. Then you'll understand why I had to call my lawyer. That afternoon, Diane makes a catastrophic mistake. She goes live on Instagram, tears streaming down her face, makeup smeared like a broken doll. The video is painful to watch, not because I feel sorry for her, but because it's such obvious manipulation. "I'm being sabotaged by a vindictive ex-husband who can't handle that I'm successful," she sobs to her followers. "He's using lawyers to destroy everything I've built because I hurt his feelings. This is what financial abuse looks like." The comments section immediately becomes a battlefield. Some followers offer sympathy, but others aren't buying it. "Girl, weren't you with 2 guys on Thanksgiving?" writes one. "He owns the company, though. What did you expect?" asks another. "You forged a prenup, and now you're the victim?" Within an hour, the live stream has been screen recorded and shared across multiple platforms. Diane's breakdown becomes a cautionary tale about the dangers of social media oversharing. Local business forums start discussing the legal case, with event planners taking sides based on their experiences with both of us. By Sunday evening, I'm sitting in my home office, sipping a dark ale, and watching Diane's professional world collapse in real time. Vendors are quietly removing her logos from their websites. The Winter Charity Gala has officially been reassigned to a different planner. 3 clients have publicly switched to other providers, citing reliability concerns. My phone buzzes with a text from Jonas Bell, our accountant. "Hey man, we need to talk about something I found in your financial documents. It's big, really big." I stare at the message, that familiar knot forming in my stomach again. Just when I think I've seen the worst of Diane's deception, another shoe drops. How deep does this rabbit hole go? I thought I'd already seen the worst of it. I was wrong. Sometimes the nail in the coffin arrives via email and a trembling accountant. Monday morning finds me sitting across from Jonas Bell at Murphy's Diner on Federal Hill, watching him fidget with his coffee cup like it holds secrets. Jonas has been our accountant for 4 years, meticulous, reliable, the kind of guy who color codes his filing system. Seeing him this rattled makes my stomach clench. "I need to show you something," he says, pulling out a manila folder with shaking hands. "But first, you need to understand. I had no idea what she was really doing." "What are you talking about, Jonas?" He opens the folder and slides a document across the table. It's that fraudulent prenup amendment, but this version has his notary seal at the bottom. My blood runs cold. "She came to me 6 months ago with this," he explains, voice barely above a whisper. "Said you couldn't make it to the office because of a client emergency, but that you'd already reviewed the changes. She had a scanned copy with what looked like your signature." I study the document, recognizing the sophisticated forgery. The signature looks authentic, too authentic. "She was so confident, so professional," Jonas continues. "Said it was just for clarity with vendors. I've known Diane for years, trusted her completely. When she handed me the document with your supposed signature already on it, I just notarized her signature without thinking twice." Jesus, Jonas. "You realize what this means?" "That's not the worst part." He slides another document across the table, showing financial transfers I've never seen. "She's been using your digital signature on more than just the prenup. Look at these business account changes." The paper shows authorization forms, all bearing my forged signature, that transferred operational control of our merchant accounts to a new business entity, DH Enterprises, LLC. Diane Hayes. Enterprises. She'd been systematically redirecting our revenue streams. "How much?" I ask, though I'm not sure I want to know. "Over the past 4 months, about $230,000. She convinced me these were tax optimization moves you'd approved." The diner suddenly feels too small, too hot. $230,000, nearly $250,000 stolen using my own signature, with the help of my own accountant. "There's more," Jonas says. "She had me sign off on several vendor contracts using your authority. The Winter Charity Gala advance payments, 3 wedding deposits, corporate event retainers, all redirected to DH Enterprises." I lean back in the booth, processing the magnitude of Diane's theft. This wasn't just betrayal or simple fraud. This was calculated. Long-term embezzlement designed to strip me of everything while setting up her competing business. "When did you figure out something was wrong?" "When I got the legal notice Friday about unauthorized use of HEG Holdings assets." I started cross-referencing all the documents she'd brought me, and the timeline didn't make sense. Plus, I realized I'd never actually spoken to you about any of these changes. Jonas pulls out his phone and shows me a photo of another document. "This morning, I found this in my files. Business registration for DH Enterprises, filed 3 months ago. Look at the registered address." I squint at the small text and feel my jaw clench. The address is our vacation house in Camden, Maine, the one the forged prenup claimed she'd receive in divorce. "She's been planning this for months," I mutter. "Maybe longer." "I'm sorry, Colby. I've already prepared a full affidavit detailing every document she brought me and every transaction I processed. I'll testify to whatever you need." I look at Jonas, this decent man who got manipulated by my wife's charm, and I don't feel angry at him. Diane played us against each other, using our trust as a weapon. Don't beat yourself up, but I need copies of everything. Within an hour, Jonas provides me with complete documentation of Diane's fraud. Forged signatures, unauthorized transfers, fake business registrations, fraudulent vendor contracts. It's enough evidence to send her to prison. I call Zane from the parking lot, engine running, heat blasting against the December cold. We've got her, I tell him, explaining Jonas's revelations. Criminal fraud, embezzlement, identity theft, the whole package. How much are we talking about? $230,000 in direct theft, plus damages from unauthorized contracts. But Zane, there's something else. She registered a competing business using our vacation house address. That's premeditation. She was planning to leave you with nothing and start fresh with stolen money. Zane's tone is ice cold. I'm filing criminal complaints this afternoon. Federal and state charges. What about the money? We'll get it back, plus damages. But Colby, prepare yourself. This is going to get ugly. When cornered animals realize they're caught, they lash out. He's right. By Tuesday morning, my phone floods with calls from mutual friends and business contacts. Diane has been working the phones, spinning narratives about my vindictive persecution of her legitimate business interests. She's telling people I'm using false accusations to destroy her career because I can't handle her success. Some people buy it, others don't. The event planning community in New England is small, and word travels fast. 3 major venues issue statements severing ties with Diane Hayes, citing ongoing legal concerns. 2 prominent wedding planners publicly distance themselves from her brand. Diane's desperation becomes obvious when she tries contacting our clients directly. I get a call from Margaret Ashford, whose daughter's wedding we're planning for next spring. Colby, dear, I got the strangest call from Diane yesterday, Margaret says, confused. She said you'd gone insane with jealousy and were trying to sabotage her business, and that I should transfer my contract directly to her new company to protect my daughter's wedding. What did you tell her? I told her that you've been handling our family's events for 3 years, and if there were problems, I'd hear about them from you directly. But she kept insisting you were mentally unstable. It was quite uncomfortable. This is exactly what Zane warned me about. Diane is getting desperate, reaching out to anyone who will listen with increasingly wild stories. But her aggressive tactics are backfiring. Most clients have worked with me for years and trust my professionalism over her hysteria. Wednesday evening, I get a call from Preston Wells, Diane's ex-husband, calling from what sounds like a bar. You've made your point, man, he slurs. She's falling apart. Maybe it's time to back off. Excuse me? Look, I know Thanksgiving was messed up, but she doesn't deserve to have her whole life destroyed. She made some mistakes, but... Preston, I interrupt. She stole over $200,000 from me using forged documents. This isn't about Thanksgiving dinner anymore. A long pause. She what? Ask her about DH Enterprises. Ask her about the money transfers. Ask her about the contracts she signed using my stolen signature. I keep my voice calm, factual. This isn't about hurt feelings. It's about felony fraud. The line goes quiet. Then, Jesus, I had no idea. I thought this was just divorce drama. It's not. And Preston, if you're smart, you'll stay far away from this. The FBI takes financial fraud seriously. He hangs up without saying goodbye. By Thursday, walls are closing in on Diane from every direction. Jonas Bell has filed his affidavit with criminal and civil courts. The FBI's Financial Crimes Unit has opened an investigation. 3 separate civil suits have been filed by clients seeking to recover deposits. Friday morning, I get a call from Detective Sarah Morrison with Rhode Island State Police. Mr. Hayes, we've executed a search warrant on the DH Enterprises office location. I think you need to see what we found. An hour later, I'm standing in what used to be our vacation house in Camden, watching forensic accountants catalog evidence. The cozy lake house where we spent our honeymoon has been converted into a command center for stealing my life's work. Detective Morrison shows me a handwritten note from Diane's desk. Phase 3. Complete asset transfer by January. File divorce with amended prenup. C will be too blindsided to fight effectively. Phase 3. This was all planned in phases, like a military operation. I wasn't just ending a marriage. I was dismantling a criminal enterprise built on our wedding vows. Vengeance doesn't come with blood. It comes with 84 pages and a process server. The manila folder marked Final Strike sits beside my untouched coffee in my home study, containing everything Zane Caro and I have prepared over the past 2 weeks. My name listed as sole plaintiff in 3 simultaneous legal actions: divorce petition, fraud complaint, and business injunction for intellectual property seizure. Zane advised using a professional process server, but I want to deliver these papers myself. Some moments require a personal touch. Monday morning at 9 a.m., I drive to Janice Thornton's house. The same street, same wreath on the door, same porch where I was humiliated just 2 weeks ago. The December air bites at my face as I walk up the driveway, legal documents tucked under my arm like a weapon. Reed Callahan answers the door in boxers and a wrinkled t-shirt, clearly just rolled out of bed. His hair is disheveled, and he has that groggy look of someone who's been drinking too much and sleeping too little. Elise isn't here, he tries, using Diane's middle name like they're still college sweethearts. Yes, she is, and it's Diane, not Elise. Diane appears seconds later in expensive loungewear that probably cost more than most people's rent. She looks pale, unwashed, with dark circles under her eyes that no amount of concealer can hide. The confident woman who laughed at me across Janice's dining table has been replaced by someone who looks like she hasn't slept in days. She tries appealing to emotion first. You blindsided me, Colby. You're humiliating me in front of everyone we know. We could have talked this through like adults instead of you going nuclear with lawyers. I remain steady, voice calm. You laughed at me with your ex-husband and your ex-boyfriend while wearing the dress I bought you for our anniversary. Then you forged my signature on legal documents and stole over $200,000. We're beyond talking. Reed steps forward, trying to puff up his chest in some misguided attempt to intimidate me. Look, man, maybe you should just... My tone sharpens, voice dropping low. This isn't your war, Reed. You're just collateral damage. Stay out of it or get crushed with her. Something in my voice makes him hesitate. His bravado deflates, and he takes a step back, visibly shaken. Diane watches this exchange in silence, probably realizing for the first time that the men she's been using for emotional support aren't going to protect her from the consequences of her actions. I hand her the folder without ceremony. 84 pages, divorce filing, criminal complaint for fraud, and court motion freezing your access to all business assets. You've got 72 hours to respond. As she flips through the documents, her hands start to shake. Her face goes from pale to ashen as she reads the charges. Identity theft, embezzlement, fraudulent business representation, forgery. The legal language is cold, clinical, devastating. I turn and walk away without another word. The silence burns louder than any insult could. Over the next week, the legal machinery grinds into motion with ruthless efficiency. The court upholds Zane's emergency motions, legally barring Diane from accessing business accounts, marketing tools, email lists, or software licenses. Vendor contracts are officially transferred to my sole ownership. Clients receive formal notifications of the new ownership structure and updated contact information. The professional fallout is immediate and brutal. Event vendors who've worked with us for years quietly remove Diane's logos from their websites. The Rhode Island Event Planning Association issues a statement about maintaining ethical standards in business practices. 3 major venues, including the prestigious Newport Mansion where we've done dozens of weddings, send formal letters severing all ties with Diane Hayes. But Diane's public unraveling becomes the most fascinating part to watch. Unable to access her business social media accounts, she starts posting increasingly desperate content on her personal Instagram. Cryptic stories about being attacked by narcissists and destroyed by jealous men. Long, rambling posts about how the event planning industry is controlled by toxic masculinity. The comment sections become battlefields. Some followers offer sympathy, but others aren't buying her victim narrative. "Girl, didn't you cheat?" writes one. "He owns the company, though. What did you expect?" asks another. Why are you acting like the victim when you stole money? Kayla Monroe, my assistant, shows me screenshots of vendor group chats where Diane's reputation is being dissected in real time. She's been blacklisted from half the venues in New England, Kayla reports. Nobody wants to work with someone who might forge contracts. The most satisfying moment comes when I receive a call from the Winter Charity Gala Committee. Mrs. Vanderbilt, the event chair, sounds mortified. Colby, dear, we had no idea about the legal complications with Diane. We'd like to officially retain HEG Holdings to manage the gala under your direct supervision. Can you salvage the event? Absolutely. I'll have a revised proposal to you by tomorrow morning. Within 48 hours, I've restructured the entire gala, working directly with vendors who are relieved to have clear legal authorization again. The event that was supposed to be Diane's crown jewel becomes my vindication, proving that the business relationships were always built on my reputation, not hers. Diane's support system crumbles with stunning speed. Preston Wells quietly leaves Boston. Mutual friends say he moved back to Denver for work opportunities. Reed Callahan unfollows Diane on all social media platforms and returns to Miami, claiming he got a consulting gig that requires immediate relocation. Even Janice Thornton starts distancing herself, deleting photos of Diane from her social media and avoiding calls from mutual acquaintances asking about the scandal. The most telling moment comes when Mrs. Patterson, Diane's own mother, stops returning her calls. Through mutual family friends, I hear that Mrs. Patterson is embarrassed and heartbroken by her daughter's actions, particularly the theft and forgery charges. 3 weeks after Thanksgiving, I'm working late in my Providence office when the final piece of legal vindication arrives via certified mail. The court order is simple, direct, and completely devastating to any remaining claims Diane might have. Diane Hayes is permanently barred from representing herself as co-founder, partner, or authorized operator of any entity under HEG Holdings or its subsidiary companies. All previous claims of business ownership or operational authority are hereby declared null and void. I pour myself a neat glass of rye whiskey and step outside onto the small balcony attached to my office. The December air is sharp and clean, cutting through the fog that's been clouding my judgment for months. Providence spreads out below me, lights twinkling like stars, and for the first time in years, the view doesn't remind me of everything I'm failing at. My phone buzzes with a text from Zane. It's over. She's agreed to a settlement that gives you everything. No contest on any of the charges in exchange for avoiding prison time. I stare at the message for a long moment, then delete it without responding. This was never about winning or losing. It was about refusing to be erased from my own life. Diane now owns nothing but her personal debt and a reputation that will follow her wherever she goes. I own HEG Holdings, all business trademarks and intellectual property, every vendor relationship we built together, and the lake house in New Hampshire. More importantly, I own my self-respect again. But the real victory isn't in what I took from her. It's in what I built from the wreckage. New client relationships based on trust rather than manipulation. A business structure that can't be stolen or forged away. A life that belongs entirely to me, with no hidden agendas or secret planning sessions. I finish my whiskey and head back inside. Tomorrow I start building something that can't be taken from me. Tonight, I'm going to sleep like a man with a clear conscience. For the first time in years, I wasn't cleaning up after someone else's mess. I was building something that couldn't be taken from me. You don't need a seat at someone else's table when you've built your own. 1 year later, I'm driving 2 hours north to my cabin on Echo Lake, New Hampshire, the same lake house that used to be ours, but was never really ours. Just another asset Diane tried to steal with forged paperwork. Now it's genuinely mine, legally and emotionally, purchased outright with funds recovered from the settlement. Snow starts falling as I wind through the mountain roads, fat flakes catching in my headlights like tiny stars. The cabin sits tucked between pine trees at the water's edge, rustic and minimal in all the ways our marriage home never was. Stone fireplace, 2 bedrooms, cozy kitchen, and a wooden table by the window facing the lake. No Pinterest-perfect staging, no expensive throws arranged just so. just honest simplicity. I'm not lonely here. I'm peaceful. There's a difference I never understood before. Thanksgiving dinner this year has a guest list of people who actually matter. Zane Caro arrives first with his wife Melinda, bringing a bottle of wine that costs more than my monthly electric bill and homemade pecan pie. Kayla Monroe shows up an hour later with her boyfriend Derek, carrying beer and roasted squash that actually smells incredible. But the guest who makes me smile is Clara Jennings, my neighbor from Providence, who arrives fashionably late with homemade cornbread stuffing and that quiet confidence I've come to appreciate over the past few months. Clara has been a constant presence in my post-divorce life. Shared coffee on Sunday mornings, help planting flowers in the spring, evening walks around the neighborhood where conversation flows easy and natural. She's everything Diane wasn't. Genuine, uncomplicated, content with who she is instead of constantly performing for an invisible audience. When Clara laughs, it's because something is actually funny, not because she's working some angle or trying to impress someone. We gather around the wooden table I built myself last summer, rough-hewn from local pine and sealed with my own hands. It's not fancy, but it's solid, honest work that will last longer than any of the expensive furniture Diane insisted we needed to project success. The dinner conversation flows naturally. Real stories from real people with no hidden agendas. Zane tells us about his teenage daughter's first court case internship. Kayla updates us on her wedding planning business, which has grown significantly since taking over several clients who fled Diane's sinking ship. Derek, a contractor who reminds me of my father, shares stories about renovating historical homes on the Cape. When Kayla raises her beer bottle in a toast, her words hit deeper than any fancy champagne speech. To rebuilding, brick by brick, stone by stone, even when people try to knock it down. Clara sits beside me throughout dinner, occasionally touching my hand when she makes a point or laughs at one of Zane's lawyer jokes. I don't pull away anymore. For months after the divorce, I flinched whenever anyone touched me, like I was expecting manipulation or calculation behind every gesture. But Clara's touch is different. Honest, warm, given freely without expectation of return. As we're clearing dishes, my phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. When I check it, my stomach drops slightly. It's from Diane. "You win. I hope you're happy." No hello, no apology, no acknowledgement of the pain she caused or the money she stole. Just 5 words designed to make me feel guilty for protecting myself from her fraud. Even in defeat, she's trying to manipulate me, trying to make her criminal behavior seem like a game where I chose to play dirty. I stare at the screen for a long moment, then delete the message without responding. Clara notices my expression and raises an eyebrow questioningly. "Diane," she asks softly. Final words, I think. Still trying to make me feel bad for not letting her rob me blind. Clara nods, understanding without needing details. That's another thing I love about her. She doesn't need to dissect every aspect of my past to accept my present. Later that evening, after our guests have left and Clara has gone home to her own house, I sit by the fireplace with a glass of bourbon, watching flames dance against the stone hearth. The lake outside is still as black glass, reflecting moonlight like scattered diamonds. A loon calls somewhere in the distance, its haunting voice echoing across the water. I think about the man I was a year ago, desperate for approval, willing to accept crumbs of affection, so afraid of conflict that I enabled my own destruction. That version of me would have responded to Diane's text with an apology, would have found some way to make her abandonment my fault. But I'm not that man anymore. The legal battle didn't just win me back my business and assets. It taught me the difference between keeping the peace and keeping my dignity. I spent 5 years trying to be enough for someone who was always halfway out the door, someone who saw my love as weakness to exploit, rather than strength to cherish. The realization doesn't hurt anymore. It just is, like the color of the lake or the sound of wind through pine trees. Around 10 p.m., I pull out the same recipe card my mother gave me when I was 12, the one for apple crumble that started this whole mess a year ago. But tonight, I'm not making it as an offering to people who don't deserve it. I'm making it because Clara mentioned loving the smell of cinnamon and nutmeg baking, Because Zane's wife asked for the recipe. Because I want to. As I peel Honeycrisp apples in my cabin kitchen, soft jazz playing from my phone, the irony isn't lost on me. I'm making the same dessert that I carried to my humiliation. But now it's for people who see my efforts as gifts rather than desperate attempts to buy belonging. Clara texts me around 11. Thank you for including me today. Your friends are wonderful, and that dinner felt like coming home. Coming home. Not performing home or staging home or Instagram-worthy home. Just the simple, honest comfort of being around people who accept you as you are. I text back, thank you for being there. It meant more than you know. She responds immediately, coffee tomorrow morning? I'll bring real maple syrup for pancakes. It's a deal. As I slide the apple crumble into the oven, the familiar scent of brown sugar and spices fills the cabin. But instead of anxiety about whether it will be good enough, I feel simple satisfaction in the process. The recipe hasn't changed, but everything else has. I'm done trying to sit at tables that required me to shrink myself to fit. I built my own table, filled it with people who make space for all of me. The successful businessman, the man still healing from betrayal, the guy who makes decent apple crumble and tells terrible dad jokes. The fire crackles in the hearth, snow continues falling outside the window, and I'm exactly where I belong. Not because someone graciously allowed me to be here, but because I built this life with my own hands, brick by honest brick. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying someone else. It's remembering who the hell you are and building a life they'll never be welcome in.